The climate emergency requires decisive action that halves carbon dioxide emissions by 2030 and drives us to neutrality by 2050. We need an economic transformation within our planetary boundaries and below the threshold of temperature increase indicated by science to avoid catastrophic consequences. How do we start to build this new economy? To drive this transformation, the European Union designed a plan in 2018 to help mobilize private capital towards sustainable investments. The European Commission appointed a group of 35 experts that defined a classification of 72 activities that significantly contribute to a net zero economy, do no significant harm to other environmental priorities, and are carried out in accordance with minimum ethical, social, and labor standards. This is why the European Union Taxonomy of Sustainable Finance emerged.
Today we have a good friend, José Luis Blasco, Global Head of Sustainability at Acciona, one of the leading construction and infrastructure company in Europe and potentially in the world. Hi, José Luis. Thanks for having the time to explain a little bit some of the trends in Europe. José Luis, as an expert, can you tell us what is EU Taxonomy for a new person, for someone who doesn't know, in few bullet points? What is EU Taxonomy?
Wow. First of all, thank you, Anima, for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Let me give you an example. Imagine that we are starting from scratch and we need to identify what is green and what is not. What is it problem? Everybody has a problem when we are defining what is green and what is not green when we are talking about assets. The European Union has decided to define what is green. That this is a very, very, very interesting topic. The taxonomy define, taking into account the lens of the European commitments, what is green. And they have defined 72 activities, industrial activities, using different criteria. We can go in more depth if you want, but it's a classification of green assets in order to show for investors and also show the pathway for corporates what the European Commission will consider green as investments. And this is the miracle of the taxonomy. For the first time, we have a golden rules in order to define this very tough question.
And just to build up on that concept a little bit further, we have noticed here in Brazil, and that's a global trend, that asset owners have been increasingly more aware that the asset allocation has direct impact on creating this positive societal change. And we know for a fact that this is the case in Europe. So can you elaborate a little bit on the European context in terms of intentionality of the investors, preferred products? Do you think education is still in process? Can you give us a little bit more color in the European context, please?
Yeah, I think, Thiago, is the things are changing very quickly in the last probably 2 years only. To give you a figure, in these only 2 years, the ESG strategy in the European market growth 60%. This is amazing, because at the end of the day, you can prove that the most, or probably all the main asset managers around Europe has identified ESG as a niche for their clients. And to understand why the European Union, the European investors are more keen to invest in this kind of assets is because, first of all, the European Union has decided to be carbon neutral. And this is very relevant because probably at the end of the next year, we will have 70%, even 0% of the economy of the world, 70% will become carbon neutral in 2050. And wow, this is very relevant because if you decide as an economy to become net zero, you have a challenge ahead you, and you need to transform a lot of parts of your industries and the economic sector in order to become carbon neutral. And the first effect that the European Union was defining was how we can introduce this information into the financial system. And this is the trigger to increase the appetite of the financial institutions to know, okay, if we have very intensive carbon assets, what is the effect in my portfolio if the regulator is looking at me if I am more risky or riskier than the other banks, depending on how exposed are you to the climate change risks. And this conversation increase the appetite and also the interest of the investors in the European Union to become more ESG sensitive.
This is driven potentially by the public sector. What are the themes more often debated by the private sector, by the institutional investors, and how GPs like us what can we do to address those concerns or challenges?
Yeah, this is very relevant question, Aníbal, because we have two ways or two angles to see the ESG. One part of the investors are looking at the ESG strategies as a risk, a better risk analysis tool. If you will see the economy in a net zero context, probably you will have a stranded asset at the end of the day if you don't look at the right companies or the right investments. But now the things are changing because more investors are talking about the opportunities of this transformation. And we can talk about the taxonomy. Taxonomy is a very good tool, not to see how carbonic is your portfolio, is about where are the opportunities for transformation, because it's talking about what are the green investments. And this tension between the risk and the opportunities is very, very interesting in terms of to increase the diversity of the investment strategies. And for you as a private equity investment company, probably you need to balance both. First of all, just look at the risk side of the ESG strategies, looking at companies who integrate correctly what are the mega trends impacting in their strategies, in the market strategy, and the other, how they are looking at the future, taking into account where are the opportunities of this transformation. But at the end of the day, the investors, I see that the investors and also the companies, the private investors and private company is divided in two groups. One group of companies or investors who believes that we will come carbon neutral, and the other side we have another group that probably know that probably we will not reach this figure. If you are in the first group, you have a different vision than the second group, and you can see when we are making the roadshows and talking with investors that these two groups are now 50-50. but probably in the near future we will have a different proportion.
So there's a divided between true believers and pragmatics.
Yeah, I don't know if pragmatics. If you see, for example, you see how big is the recovery package of the European Union, probably you will have, if you want to be pragmatic, you will be in the first group.
José Luis, you mentioned in the previous question a very interesting statement that a couple of years ago nobody was articulating about ESG or impact, and all of a sudden everybody's so concerned about that, right? And it's certainly the case in our geography here in Brazil as well, that even last time than that, about a year ago, nobody really knew about it, and it has become a trending topic in the financial markets. As someone who has been articulating about impact for so many years, what do you think has changed positively and negatively, naturally?
I think that the after the financial crisis, the financial institutions, I think that the reputation of the financial institution was damaged. But the way to recover the previous prestigious position in the society was not working at the end. They found in ESG strategies a connection with the society prosperity drivers. And I think that the most of them see ESG as a translator, as a way to connect with the societal needs. And this is very relevant in terms of first of all, how the financial institutions are competing in a new world where the Apple Pay and Google Pay and all the fintech is attacking their market share, and other actors are entering and incorporating into their markets, and they need to fight with another attributes in the competitive market. And I think that this is one part of the equation. They are looking for the reputation lost during the financial crisis, and they found finally, I think, that a way to explain better their value proposition. But in the other way, I think that the regulators also are pressing them in order to understand what is now what is the new meaning of value, and what is the new meaning of long term, and what is the meaning of risks assessment, and also how the regulator are open the eyes of the financial sector is also very interesting. I think this is a carrot and a stick, probably in a very relevant moment like this we are living, that the society is pressing all the actors in the society in a positive direction.
You are a strong advocate of the EU Taxonomy as a way to somehow measure a tangible impact, but there seems to be a lot, and I don't know if you agree with what I'm going to say, but there seems to be a lot of ESG washing or whatever washing, green washing. You think EU Taxonomy, and I'm sure you are biased, but EU Taxonomy can get us a better tool to a little bit clean this greenwashing?
Absolutely, Aníbal. I am fully convinced about that. Let me explain, and with another example, what this taxonomy is trying to do. Imagine that we are net zero believers, okay? We believe that in 2050, at the end of the day, we will become carbon neutral. Because it's by law in the Europe, established by law. This is true. Imagine that we are believers and we have a time machine. And we go into our time machine and press the button to 2050, open the doors, and we go in a room, and we ask the first person we met, okay, we become neutral? Yes. And how is the electricity produced at this stage? Very simple, sir. Is 100 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. This is the answer of in the taxonomy. It's a technological agnostic tool giving the photo of 2050 today and say, okay, if you want to survive in a net zero society, you need to produce electricity like this, produce cement like this, steel or the drinking water. This kind of activity, basic activities, are all the activities that are more pollutant in terms of CO2 is listed in these 72 activities, but with the threshold that we need to reach in 2050, it will become neutral. And I think that this is a check of truth, of truth. Because at the end of the day, you need to produce this kilowatt hour with this concentration of CO2. Now, the problem that we have in the ESG investment products is that the people cannot understand why you have oil and gas companies in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, for example. I call it the Greta Thunberg test. Because if you go through the list of the assets that you are investing, and a person very conscious like Greta has seen, okay, I'm seeing that you are investing in this and that company who are very large emitters. Why are you considering them sustainable? And the answer of the asset manager is because their practices are improving. And this is the change in the equation. It's not enough to make the good things about how you are doing things. It's about what are you doing. And this is the dilemma, or the taxonomy wants to change. I don't want to invest in companies, in assets that cannot survive in this net zero society.
Thank you very much. I hope this is the first among many. We want to learn and hopefully bring your expertise to Latin America. Thank you very much again, as friend of this house.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Aníbal. Thank you, Tiago. You're very kind with me. Thank you very much.